Hi everybody, it's Joni Young here. Welcome back to my channel for another painting tutorial in acrylics. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a colorful parrot paradise. We're going to be using a lot of beautiful colors today. I'm going to go through those with you in just a moment. And I've also got a larger canvas here today. It's a 16 by 20 and a few brushes. Now during the process of this painting, I may add a few other brushes. I'll mention those and I'll have a full list of everything I'm using below this video in the description box. So let's go through the brushes. I've got a number 50 filbert brush for the background and large areas. And I have a number 6 filbert brush I'll be using for the palm leaves and the parrot feathers. And I'm also going to be using a few smaller detail brushes. Here I have a number 3 round brush. And I've also got a number 2 long liner rigger brush. This will be used for skinny lines, any branches or vines that I might be painting, and even maybe some parts of the tail on the parrot. And I've also got these colors here along the side. I've got titanium white, cadmium yellow light, and I've got Hooker's Green Hue Permanent, Compost Blue number 1, Phthalo Blue, Mars Black, Luminous Violet, and Luminous Red. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Just before we do that, be sure that you're subscribed to my channel, tap the bell so you get notified when I post and upload a new video so you don't miss out on anything. And leave a comment, question, give this video a like. All of those things really help support my channel. And if you want to support even more and help make these videos possible, become a Patreon member today. For as little as $5 a month, you instantly unlock hundreds of exclusive full-length tutorials. You can connect with me one-on-one for advice and critiquing of your paintings. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take these brushes off the easel and we're just going to go over with the colors we're using for the background. I'm going to start with my number 50 filbert brush. What I want to do is have a beautiful blue sky, and that's where this compost blue comes in. I'm just gonna call it light blue, and I'll call this dark blue. And I'm going to just add a little bit of water to my canvas because it's going to help me blend my acrylics out better. I'm going to just add a little bit with my spray bottle here. You might see me using this one sometimes too. This has a finer mist to it, and I can just keep my acrylic paints on my palette here wet longer and use this for part of the painting where I need to blend or thin my paint out. So these are really, really handy to have. They don't cost a lot of money, just a little water, and that's all I use. So a lot of people think that I'm using some special mediums that I'm adding to my acrylics, but I'm not. It's just water. Okay. So we've got a little bit of water on there, and I'm going to go in and just start with a little bit of white first, then take some blue. The white will soften that and make it look a little creamy. Okay, I'm going to take some more of that blue, and now I'm going to take some phthalo blue. And we're going to just start making it gradually a little darker down here. We'll take a little bit more white, blend that in here. More blues. Both of those blues. This is starting to get a little bit dry down here, so I'm going to add that water. Add a little bit more down here. If you see me switch hands, it's just to give my arm a little bit of a break. Okay, I want to take a little bit of this beautiful violet, and I'm going to add a little bit down here. I'm going to take a little bit of white with that, and look at this gorgeous color. Such a pretty color. I'm going to take a little bit more, work that into the blue, and we're going to get this really pretty shade of violet, a bluey violet. Now before this can dry, First of all, I'm going to rinse that brush out quickly. Before this can dry, I'm going to take one of my Dry and Clean soft mop brushes, and I'm just going to fade and kind of erase, blend out any of these harsh lines. So you don't want to have a lot of paint. Any big globs or thick paint will make it tough to do this. You want a thin base of paint and a dry and soft mop brush. It has to be soft, otherwise if you use a stiff bristled stippler brush, that kind of mop brush that you stipple with, then you're going to be left with streaks and brush marks on the canvas. Okay, now that this base coat is all dry, we're going to start coming in with some soft peachy colored clouds. I'm going to take white, and I'm using a larger filbert brush. This one's a number 14. I'm going to take a touch of yellow and just a touch of that red. Get that all mixed up. Make it lighter with some more white. Mix it up, and then just get a little bit on the end of your brush to work with. And I'm just going to start by kind of tapping around. I'm not thinking too much about what I want the shape to be like. If I spend too long trying to plan out how I want my cloud to be shaped, then it ends up looking a little bit too kind of stiff and like I did plan it out. And I want it to look more natural. So then I'm just going to come in here, add a little bit more white. The white will keep this bright and from fading into the blue. Now I probably have to add a few more layers of the white to get it to be the brightness that I want. But I'm gonna stop blending it back here because this is where I'm gonna have some of that blue violet. Okay, so adding a little bit more now. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just gonna twist and roll my brush around. I just want this to be really kind of natural. There's no such thing as perfect clouds. So don't try to make them, don't try to spend too long overthinking it, overpainting, overshaping. And I'm just giving you my advice that I've learned over the years through mistakes I've made, time I may have wasted being frustrated, working and overworking my clouds, only to be even more frustrated at the end of it all because my sky looked overworked and my clouds ended up looking like stickers and like they're not translucent or luminous. Okay, so with not much time at all, we've added the light part to our clouds. Now I'm going to take some more white, and I want to make sure that I've got a nice bright lining here. And I've got a lot of cloud tutorials, some really popular ones. And because I made it very quick, straight to the point, just focusing on little tips and hacks for painting realistic clouds. So have a look through, or just go in the search bar and type it in, whatever you're looking for, and it'll pop up there for you, hopefully. If it doesn't, leave a comment below and I'll happily add the link for you if you can't find it. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm not even gonna wash my brush out because I have so much white in here. I'm going to mix up some of this violet and a little bit of blue. And we're going to make this really pretty shade. Let's make it maybe just a little bit more blue. And I'm going to start in here and work it in. Work it into part of the bright peachy part. I'm gonna add a little bit of water there. You can add some lighter areas, a little bit of white here and there to soften, because it will dry a little darker. And it's nice to have different tones. So just using the same colors, but adding a little bit more white or less white. I'm gonna make up some more here. Take some white in with that. Just a little spray. That's why I really like this little fine misting spray bottle, because it just adds enough water. Sometimes if you have too much water, then it'll ruin the whole consistency. And it's a lot of times it's about getting that right consistency of the paint and water ratio and timing it just right before it can dry. You need to be able to work with it. You want to work with your acrylics, not against them. When you practice and practice and get a good feel for it, then you really start to feel like you're at one with your paint, canvas, and brushes, and it's a beautiful experience. I like the little bits of blue showing in there. I want to leave that. And I'm just gonna mist a little bit more. I'm gonna take one of my mop brushes here, dry and clean, thin this out a little bit more. See how it's making it really see-through and soft. Take a little bit more off of here. So we're just moving it around, and then I'm adding it over here just to soften some of these areas and adding some plants. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to be using my 14 filbert first. Some green and some black. We'll start with a nice deep dark base. Let's even add a little bit of blue in with that, a little bit more green. So you can see how rich and beautiful that color is. So I'm just gonna add a base coat here, pretty thin, of this dark shade blue, black, and green. Just blocking in this dark color first, because then we can build up from that. So this is going to give us the contrast, the shading. Going to mist a little water over here, a little mop brush action again, dry and clean mop brush, and a little bit more water. Okay, then I'm going to come in and start adding some lines like this, pulling in, loading the end of my brush. Then I'm going to start to turn them this way. Make it smaller and smaller and smaller. If you're finding your filbert brush is getting a little bit too thick and you're not able to get those thin lines, just add that quick wiggle like that and that'll flatten it for you. Fan it out and have a little bit of paint on the end to work with. So I'm going to go from here, little pressure, push, and let off. Little pressure, I want that a little pointier. Push and let off. Again, push and let off. Then you can come from the center and go out that way as well. Push, full width, let off, let off. And then I'm just going to keep loading, wiggling, so I have a thin area to work with. Okay, so we'll just keep going. I'm going to bring some down here now. Get a little bit more paint on my brush. I'm going to take a little bit of blue in there, teeny bit of black, a little bit of water. Starting to look like a jungle just in that little patch on my palette. I tell you, when you start creating, you end up starting to see things that you wouldn't have noticed before. You look at everything a little differently. Add just a little line in here. I'll be adding some smaller leaves to that with a different brush. I think it's safe to come in here now. Make some of these a little thicker. And we're just going to sweep over those leaves. And add a few highlights in different shades of green. I don't want to have everything highlighted, of course. It looks nice to have some dark, deep green areas. We'll just add a little bit of a, you know how some of the leaves, they look a little shiny and plasticky almost. So we'll just create a little bit of a sheen look to them. Push, pull that off just to make some of these a little darker. I'm going to even add a little bit of that blue in there, the light blue. Fan out, wiggle, pull, and let off. Don't forget to spray your canvas off. If you have a little spray bottle, it really helps. Add a little bit of yellow in here, a little bit more white. And add a little highlight to part of the leaves. I'm going to go down a few sizes to my number 6 filbert brush. Back into my green. I'll add a little bit of blue. Let's just add this over here. There's a bit of white in here, right? And a bit of that yellow. I'm going to bring a little bit more green, more color to these. They're still going to dry a little darker than this. I'm going to add a little line for the center of the leaf. I'm going to add a few little lines here for some stems. Wiggle, twist, and pull. Make it a little wider right where the stem is. A little spray of water again. Add a little bit of white and green in there. Catch just the top of the stem. A little twist. We'll mix up another dark shade. Add a few more leaves in here. Twist and turn and let off. And then they're just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Line that comes here and overlaps. Push, let off. Push, let off. That gives you the width. Hardly any pressure. Push, let off. Gotta have the right amount of paint in your brush. And it's just fun making up these paintings. I don't like to practice beforehand, but I let you guys know that in my tutorials. I like the spontaneity of creating, and I want to deliver that in my videos to you, because you really do, it'll come across when something has been really rehearsed. And this is how I started my channel, was being spontaneous, and I believe that's what attracted many of you to my channel. Because then you feel like, you know, you're just sitting in my studio or my living room with me, and I'm just real, you know, and you don't have to super plan everything out. You can paint on the spot when you have an idea, and if you don't have an idea, just start painting. Believe me, the ideas will come. We rely in this day and age too much on needing to look at something. We don't trust ourselves enough. We're all born with an imagination, and we don't use it enough. And you really need to, because if you don't use it, you lose it. And this is good, a great exercise. Using your imagination is a great exercise to keeping your brain healthy. Even if you don't like what you paint after, it's not always about that. It's just about the process. Okay, so added a few more little details there. I'm gonna switch over to my long liner brush now. I'm gonna get it wet. You need a lot of water in your brush, and you need to add water often. And we're gonna add some vines. I actually wanna add a little bit more of my phthalo blue. See, I'm out here. And I like the bluey green shades of green, especially with like tropical paintings. I'm gonna add this video to my animals, birds, and fish playlist, and also my tropical playlist. So there's lots to find and enjoy learning from in both of those playlists. So get your brush really loaded, lots of water, paint, and I'm gonna just come down anything that doesn't look perfect. I'll just add something to, some flowers or some leaves. But a lot of these vines are going to have some leaves and flowers on them. Just start by adding little dabs here and there. And they can be different types of vines, right? They're not all going to be kind of twisted and curly looking. So I'm going to take some yellow now. Do some yellow and white. Mix that up. Bring that down and over. Really want to have the paint loaded on the end of your brush. Okay, we'll just start with a little bit like that. And then I'm going to add a few little leaves over here with a dark base. Let's take a little bit of black in there with the blue and the green. Kind of just going with the flow of the curve in this vine. I'm using that. Add another little something over here. Add a little bit of white. And I'm going to bring this through and make this palm leaf a little brighter. Pick up just a little bit more of the green though, just to make this show up because it's over top of the lightest part of the clouds. Okay, so I think I'm going to start adding a branch in. I'm going to add the flowers after, but I want to have a branch that kind of comes down like this for our parrot. And I'm going to add the branch a little bit lower, so down here. Now we're going to go over some of these leaves with the branch. It's going to be a thicker branch. And I'm going to just make, let's make a shade of brown. Let's take some red, mix that up with the green and some black, and there we've got some brown already. Take a little bit more black, a little bit more red, green. Okay, so really nice dark base color to work with first. And I'm gonna start here, and I'm gonna wiggle and bring it through there. I'm gonna make it thicker. This is so fun. Hope you guys are enjoying this one. I really have been painting a lot of Christmas, winter painting tutorials lately, and I know so many people want to escape, and many of you guys are probably heading off to the Caribbean, flying south, but some people can't. But you know, you can paint as a form of escape. I'm going to add black, straight black to the bottom for our darkest shadow. I'm a little bumpy, a little shaky. I'm a little bumpy. I'm shaking a little bit to make it look a little bumpy. That sounds better. Okay, so there's the shadow base coat. I'm rinsing my brush off. And now I'm going to come in with some white, mix that olive green with a little bit of that brown base coat. Now we're going to come up a little higher. Need a lot more paint. Come up a little bit higher, partially over the background. I'm going to shake a little bit more. Take a little bit more white. I'm going to go into that peach. And a brighter highlight. And then I'm just going to kind of make this look a little bit twisted. Go back, pull it down. We're bringing some of that dark that we're picking up from underneath over. That helps to give us the shadowed part of these little twists. I'm going to come down here while this is drying and just add a little waterfall. I'm going to use this little brush, a little bit of white, compost blue, and I'm going to have a little waterfall just kind of in the distance, nice and small. And then maybe just a little area here that it's a little pool down here at the bottom. A little bit more blue. I'm just going to add that in. I'll take a little bit of my phthalo, mix that in, and just make everything look a little bit more glowier. Touch of white in here, and then a little flick from the bottom up, a little tap, and then just soften. Okay, I'm gonna Start coming in with the parrot now. So I'm going to have the tail come down right about here. And I'm going to paint dark red first. So we'll just mix up some black with red. We'll have it right down here. So it's going to come down into a V like this. I'll take some more red. I'm going to go inside that. It is going to dry darker, and I might have to add a little bit more later. Okay, and then we're going to come right up out here. A little bit lower down here. I'm going to add a little oval. Just end my paint out a little bit with some water. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, a little bit of white, and a little bit more red. I'm going to have a wing here. Yellow reddish area here. Yellow little holes for the feather. And we're going to come around here for the neck. Add some more red. I'm going to take a little bit of blue and a little bit of black. Haven't washed my brush out yet. And I'm going to come right in here. We're just going to see part of the other wing. So it just pops out a little bit right there. Then I'm going to go around and add a little dab here, a little pull. Gonna rinse my brush out now. Remember, you can sketch yours out first if you want to. I take some white, a little bit of that compost blue, and I'm going to start coming in underneath that yellow. Then some beautiful rich phthalo blue, a little bit of white in there. Fan it out. That tail feather, a little bit more blue. I said tail feather, but I mean the wing. Of course, I'm gonna bring some black and blue right in here. A little bit of red, white, and just add a little hint inside that black part of the other wing. Clean brush, some more yellow, straight yellow, and I'm going to add that partially over the compost blue and partially over the yellow that's already there. I'm going to come up here, add a little bit in there, then go back over to red. Go around, pop that out. The neck area here. A little bit more red. Pull over. Then we're going to have the beak area here and a little bit of blue just to mix that in with my red, yellow, make a darker color. Add some shadows in here in the feathers. Just going scooping like that. A little bit of black. A little curve, bring it down. Come up here, paint that in black, come right under this red, I can take some of this off now or I can just paint over it, but I think it's still a little bit wet, so I'm able to take some of that off. Okay, I'm going to make a shade of gray, a little bit of black and white. I'm going to come down like this, up here, lift up a little bit, and curve. I go inside that with some white and a little line right here, here, and take off a little bit of the width. A little bit of black, just a little bit on the very tip. Curve that in. Raise this up a little bit and add some black right in there. And this is going to come down a little lower. A little bit of yellow and white. Above the eye to the top of the head. Mix up, make a beautiful shade of peachy orange. We're going to go right on the top of the wing. A little bit more. Okay, with a clean brush, I'm going to take my blue, white, and a little bit more of the phthalo. And we're going to start the blue here. Some yellow and white, and we're gonna make some green as we pull into. You can add the yellow here to the blue once it's dry, or you can add it into the wet like I am going to here. So I'm just gonna pull this kind of up and down, and then we'll get a pretty shade of green that way. I'm going to take my little round brush, make some of that peach, light peach color, similar to what we used for the clouds. A little bit more white in here. Get that all mixed up, a little bit on the end of my brush. Up a little bit more, and we're going to start to shape in the eye now. Go around. Take a little bit of white. There's just a touch of blue in there too. And pull that in. The eye's going to be right in here. Let's just take a little dab of black. And then go into the white, and I'm going to start taking away from the eye. So taking a little bit of black and adding these little lines like this. We're just going to make the pupil a lot smaller by doing so. So you sort of have this little speckled pattern happening. Take just a little bit of blue and white and a little bit of black. And I'm going to add a little line right here for its separate the beak, and then add a little bit of gray in here, a little bit down here, a little bit there, and a little bit in here. Go back in with some black and make this separation. So there's a separation between the top and bottom portion of the beak. And I'm just going to outline with a little bit of black here. A little circle around the white that's around the black center. So then I'll take a little bit more, shake off the water here that's on my brush, a little bit of white, and I'm going to go and dab around in between there. Bring some white up there. So I'm going to be coming in here and adding some brighter highlights first with my red, a little bit of white, just little dabs for the feathers. And then we're going to have one leg right in here. A highlight on that one. Highlight there. But just see how you slowly start to build up those details one at a time, taking your time. Just take a little bit of black and blue. A few little scoops for these feathers in between. Watering down my brush a little bit, and then I'm going to come through here a little bit of red, white, and black again. So we have one leg here, we're going to add some claws, and then we've got another one right in here. Okay, so I'm going to make dark gray. Bring that up, bring it over, a little something like that. A few little dabs with some white. I'm going to add some black in between. So bring that black up over and then at the bottom. Okay, and now we'll start working on the other one. I'll just come in with a little bit of black right here first, up and then down. And then I'll take a little bit of white, mix that in. Start adding a few little dabs inside. The dabs will give you the texture. And then I'll take a little bit of black again. I'm going to take some blue and black and go over part of the branch here and dip it down a little lower. And add a few shadows, a line here, a little bit here and here. Okay, we can start coming in with some vines hanging around here. And I'm going to use some green, blue, and yellow to start. And I'm just going to tap and dab like this and bring it down. Dab, dab. We'll make those show up with a little bit of white. Dab, dab, dab inside. Let's take a little bit more of the yellow with the white this time. And we'll come up here and add some too. Let's start with a darker base, blue and green. And I've actually got a really beautiful green that I want to add to my palette. This one's a luminous green. So I'm going to take some of this and add that inside the leaves. Once I'm done this, then we're going to start to add, take a little bit of white in here with this, Then we're going to start to add some flowers. I like how thick the paint is on these vines because it really makes it look 3D. I'm going to add a little bit of my Naphthalene Crimson to the parrot, and I might use this for some flowers too. Okay, I'm going to take a little scoop of this, and I'm going to come under here, and I'm just going to add these little, light little scoops. I'm going to add them here around the neck as well. And up on the top. The belly. And just shape a few of those feathers in there. Take some of my bright red, this one here, touch of that peachy color. It'll just help keep this really nice and bright. A little highlight there on the leg. A few little dabs within those dark red ones. And add a little bit of this green where the yellow meets the blue. And then I'm going to dip into my Luminous Lemon Yellow. It's also by Holbein. And I'm going to make the yellow on this wing here a lot more vivid. I'm going to add a little something hanging here because you can see where I took off some of that paint earlier. So I'll just take my greens in this area here. I'll have it coming down here like this. Okay, now it's time to start painting my bird of paradise flower, and I'm going to add it right down about here. I'm going to be using my number 6 filbert brush and my number 3 round brush. I've got some luminous orange I'm going to be using. So I'm going to start with the stem. I'm going to be using my number 6 brush here. I'm going to take some of my greens over here, and I'll just add it right off the edge here. Add a leaf, a few leaves in here. I'm going to take a little bit of white, mix that in, push, curve, and let off. A little bit of blue and my green. And back in with my light green. I'm going to curve this over a little bit more. Bring this over to a point, like so. A little bit of white in, so it's going to make sort of a minty shade of green. And I'm going to take a little bit of white and blue, and I'm going to add it just under here. Straight blue now. And then I'm going to add a little spiky petal. I'm going to take some of the violet, mix that with a little bit of the blue to change up the shade of blue. Then I'll add some white in with it. A little bit more violet. Going to add that right there. And a little bit of white with the violet. Going to bring that up over. Pull that out into a point. Take a little bit of red and white. And come from this corner, pull and twist up. A little bit more violet, red and white. Pull that in. And we're just going to start adding those peaks. I'm gonna wash my brush out and take my orange, yellow, and white. I may not even need to use my round brush, my little round brush. I might just be able to continue with this little filbert brush, but you can use whatever you want. Just added a little bit more white in there. And really flatten my brush out here so I can get some more spikes. And then a little bit more color. Rinsing my brush out. I'm going to take some white, a little bit more of that violet that I mixed with the blue. Going to curve in and add it here.